Welcome to the Artistic Foodies, the show that explores life through the lens of art and food. I'm Abbas Muhammad.
And I'm Irfan Raidan.
And in this episode, we're talking about halal food and what that means to the Muslim community.
With both Shia and Sunni religious scholars as our guests, we explore some frequently asked questions, especially as it pertains to alcohol, kosher, seafood, and halal etiquette. Our first guest today, Imam Tahir Anwar, is a Hanafi Sunni scholar who was born in London, England, but has lived in the San Francisco Bay Area since 1983. After completing his religious studies, Imam Tahir has served the Bay Area Muslim community since 2000. He also teaches Islamic law at the renowned Zaytuna College in Berkeley, California. In addition, Imam Tahir is the founding board member of Averroes High School, which is the Bay Area's first Muslim high school. So our first question for Imam Tahir: do we need to verify the halalness of food when we are invited to a Muslim's house for dinner?
In my own household, I have a rule. If it's labeled halal and I can trust it for the most part, I'm good with it. On the issue of halal, again, it's, people that know me know that I've been raised in, a fairly conservative Muslim household. My father just had a very simple rule. If you showed up at a Muslim's house, then you safely assumed that the food was halal. I've come across people that, will call you or ask you in advance, is the food that you serve at your house halal or is it hand slaughtered? Look, if you're not okay with it, just don't accept the invitation, If someone tells you that their food is halal, then you safely assume it's halal, unless and otherwise you have a specific reason to doubt that institution or that individual, and you don't consume from there. So, if someone tells me the restaurant is a halal restaurant, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're halal, right? I believe it. Unless I have specific reason to doubt. So there's a restaurant, locally that, advertises itself to be a halal restaurant. But, some time ago, there were certain reports that came out that said, that some of the meats that were coming in weren't necessarily labeled halal. And when people asked about halal, they really didn't know what they were on about. So, you just avoid that institution altogether. Yeah. And I'm not saying don't eat out, but don't disparage people. Don't look down upon people. You have a certain standard that you follow. That's awesome. And so people, I do think that, need to be cognizant and aware of this and respect everyone, we are what we eat. So we do need to be conscious and aware of what's going inside us. And, you end up making that choice. And ultimately, if we consume, wholesome and halal, naturally, there will be tawfiq and blessings within ourselves to be able to worship Allah, remember Allah. And if we don't, then that will also have its ramifications. I think one point to note here and mention here that a lot of people forget is that when the Quran does mention halal, it's not specifically about meats. It's about that which we consume, whatever it is halal. You have people that have 100%, questionable or haram income, or a good portion of their income is completely haram. And then they are buying, halal foods with that. Well, that food just doesn't become halal by you purchasing, halal food at a halal restaurant or a halal meat store. Even that, to some extent, it could be 100% hand slaughtered dhabiha. But even that is haram because you bought it with haram income. So I think that this conversation around halal and haram is not just about the meats that we consume, but it also needs to be around the income, our means of income through which we purchase our foods that we consume.
Yeah. In the past, I've sat down for a meal with my Sunni brothers. I myself am Shia. And we'll go get some sushi, for example. right? But I'm completely hands off the unagi, no eel for me, none of the clams. In the same way, I understand that a lot of, for example, my Sunni brethren approach kosher as something that is permissible, while for me it is not permissible. Right. And yet we can still sit down and have a meal without trying to kill each other or trying to judge each other to hell. Let's say that I'm going to eat at a halal restaurant that's run by Muslims. I know the food is halal, but they serve alcohol in the restaurant. Is this permissible for me?
It is permissible for you. As long as the food is halal, it's permissible for you. Now, someone out of their comfort level may not be okay with eating in a restaurant and where alcohol is served, or may not be comfortable in eating in a restaurant in which the same owner, the very owner who's serving halal, is serving alcohol. So they're saying, hey, can we trust their word or not? Would I personally consume halal at a restaurant in which alcohol is being served, as long as it's not within my sight, or as long as I'm not being served and I have conviction in my heart that the food that is being served halal? Got no problems. But if we supported some of these Muslim-owned businesses enough, maybe the Muslim owner will go out and remove everything. There's an example of a business in our own community just in the last 2 days that got in and said, we're removing all our pork products and other things like that. You and I both know what we're talking about. And so now it behooves the Muslim community to go out there and support that business to let the business look. We're all in this together as a community, as a minority in a certain land.
Absolutely. There's also a steak restaurant that's also in our community that recently they had like partial halal. They moved all their meat to halal.
Yeah. So support the family, support the businesses. Don't judge people. It's very some people, it's harder for them to survive than others. It may be easy for you and I, but it may not be easy for others. And some people may have to take certain routes, and eventually their hearts are in the right place. They will do the right thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you said about comfort level. I feel that at the end of the day, if you look past the arguments and disagreements and online fights and trolling, the reason why this is even such an important emotional topic is because everyone's just doing their best to be the best based on their understanding.
Honestly, the Muslim business that's serving alcohol, if you could promise them a certain amount of business every month, trust me, they'll get rid of the alcohol. It's not like they're doing, it's just so. And some of these families, personally, these are good Muslims. They're masjid going Muslims, situations force people to do certain things, but these are not bad people.
They've never drank a drop themselves in their entire lives, and they never would.
And honestly, they probably have never even touched the alcohol.
Our next guest is Maulana Amin Rastani, who is a Shia scholar who traveled to the holy city of Qum after high school in 1999 to pursue Islamic studies. He was able to get into one of the top schools at the Hawza Ilmiya in Qum and graduated from the 6-year introductory level covering all Islamic disciplines. He then began the 4-year intermediate level of Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh studies, after which he had the opportunity to participate in advanced Fiqh classes. He also holds a master's degree in Semitic religions with a dissertation on the Code of Canon Law in Catholicism through the University of Religions and Denominations of Qum. Sheikh Amin is also a teacher of the Hawza and lectures internationally on various occasions of the Islamic year. In 2017, he moved back to the U.S. and is currently serving the Dallas community. Now, just to go into a little bit of the etiquette here, I know, for example, for Shias, there is, and actually, I'm not 100% sure, but like if you're eating at a table and there's a glass of wine present, is it haram for you to eat at that table?
Right. Yes. According to our Maraja, usually that's what they will say. Not only eating at that table. If this is what the fatwa is, if alcohol is being consumed at a table, you are not allowed to sit at that table. That's what we have.
Now, what if you're at a halal hand-slaughtered restaurant, but they also have alcohol? All the alcohol is separate. Am I allowed to eat there?
You're 100% sure that it's halal though? Yeah.
I know the owners, I know where they get their food from, and it's in fact hand slaughtered, so they don't even go for machine slaughter.
No, it's like Super Saiyan. It's like next
So,
level.
yeah, so they got the super halal and the super haram, next to each other, but they use all the alcohol as different glasses and everything.
They got the best of both worlds going on.
They don't use alcohol in cooking, any of that. So it's, am I allowed to eat at a restaurant where there may be, for example, someone at another table who's drinking?
Yeah, if they're not at your table, I can't say it's haram. Who am I? That's what the ruling we have is if you're sitting at the same table. So if the restaurant is serving, but for others, and it has nothing to do with me, and I'm sure that the meat is okay, then that's Some people might they might get upset at this, that oh no, how dare someone walk into a restaurant that's serving something like this, and then although they have nothing to do with the alcohol. Like, brother, sister, I understand that you have your standards, yeah, but as a jurist, the marja taqlid, the scholar cannot just make something haram that's not haram. I can't make that haram. But yeah, I mean, like, sometimes the settings, the environments are not the best environments to be in. That's a different story as well. Like, I wouldn't encourage it, but in and of itself, no, that's not going to make your food haram because you're there.
Just a final question about etiquette. If I'm being invited to someone's house for dinner, or if I'm going to eat out at a restaurant, what is the minimum requirement of investigation that I have to do? Some people will ask for receipts and certificates and to see the box and so on. So Islamically and etiquette wise, what is the extent of our investigation when investigating this?
Show me your receipts, buddy.
No, don't do that. If you're going to somebody's house, definitely, they're practicing Muslim, especially, like, no, it's wrong. It's wrong to do that. It's not wajib. It's not even mustahab. It might be makruh, or might even be problematic for you to ask them for proof that they got their meat from somewhere halal or something. No, man. Even in like the most Islamic countries, let's say if you're living, I don't know, Saudi Arabia or Iran or something, like, whereas like they're Islamic states, for example, and like for them it's a super important. Mistake is always there. There's always a chance of mistake unless I'm watching, right, with my own two eyes. Like, you got to just live in a slaughterhouse, my friend. That's not practical. Islam is more pragmatic than that, and so these amarat shari'iyah, they're called, are there as well. Right? If a Muslim tells you it's dhabiha, you're good. You don't have to investigate further.
Well, very good. That's very good. I'm glad that you went into detail about that, because we have this issue come up a lot of times in our Facebook group. And, I've had this philosophy for a long time that, if it's a Muslim person who is telling you it's halal, then I don't have any reason to not believe them, and I will eat there and not do any further questioning or investigation. Some people go really crazy. There's like some people posted about searching through the trash can outside the restaurant to look for the receipts and boxes. People go really crazy about this stuff. So it's like...
So let me tell you something, Irfan. It depends on whether you want to ascertain or you just want to take the amara shari'iyah route. All right? If a person like goes to some restaurant, there's no Islam there, there's no Muslim there, it just says halal on it. Yeah, whatever it takes to gain certainty, you have to. What I'm saying is that you don't need certainty when you have that Muslim in the picture. So like, if it's a Muslim, then yeah, like, why are you going to do this? Why are you going to investigate further? But yeah, if a person wants to really attain certainty, then yeah, whatever it takes to attain certainty. Even if it means asking for receipts, even if it means like, even if that the certificates aren't enough for me, like, it becomes super subjective, of course. But the thing is this now, what I want to say is this: you cannot impose your discretion, aka certainty, on others. I can't tell people, oh, I'm sure it's halal. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Well, bro, I don't trust Robert and Jack. All right?
Maulana, how is kosher similar to halal?
It was interesting. Years ago in that Islamic school we were growing up, we had a rabbi come and speak to us once. And he was explaining how for certain occasions that they have in their calendar, they will have to have a certain type of meat or a certain cut from a certain animal. And so he was explaining how if we don't have access to kosher, sometimes we will go for your halal because we know that you've done a good job in purifying that meat the way it's slaughtered, you know? So he was explaining how, they stuff the animal with, what is it called? That special salt they have. I don't know if it's a special salt or it's just normal salt, but that will soak up a lot of the blood actually, and a lot of the other stuff that is supposed to get out of the body of the animal. And so he was explaining that, and then he's like, yeah, and by the way, like if we can't get our hands on that, the kosher will go for your halal. It was pretty cool to hear that actually. So,
side note, I should also mention that according to the Shia Fiqh, eating kosher certified meat does not equate to eating halal meat. It cannot be used as a substitute. So for all the Shia listeners out there, not off the hook for this one.
Going back to the people of the book. So a lot of people say, these Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out, these are Christian owners, Christian companies. They put Bible verses on their stuff. So does that mean they are people of the book? Can we eat an In-N-Out burger or a Chick-fil-A sandwich?
So again, this goes back to not just being the owners being Christian. It actually goes back to whether the chicken that they serve follows the Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book standard. If it does, it's awesome. If not, then no. I don't know the answer. But at the same time, and this is a whole different topic altogether, how is it being prepared? Right? That's an entire different topic. People need to think about this. Like, how is it being prepared? And again, some people would argue to that and say, you really don't need to be nitpicky about that. Maybe you don't want to. That's fine. I would like to. I'll respect you and you respect me. If that chicken is being fried in lard, I don't want anything to do with it. Because ultimately it's going in my body. It will affect my ability to do ibadah. My ability to wake up for Fajr prayer. It will make a difference. Allah will inspire you to do good if you are consuming wholesome, and if not, otherwise. So it's not a simple yes or no. Can you go to Imam Tahir said, I can go to Chick-fil-A. No, it's not that. Imam Tahir said, y'all need to do your homework and find out whether you can or not.
Just to add on to that, I did contact In-N-Out, and I asked them, is your meat kosher? They said no. I said, do you do any kind of prayer when you do the slaughtering? They said no. So they responded truthfully and honestly. They could have lied if they wanted to.
Ooh, there's the fatwa. You heard it here first. The artistic foodies. In-N-Out is out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And how much did Chick-fil-A pay you for saying that? No, I'm just kidding. Now, again, the food of the people of the book, yes, it is definitely permissible. The problem is not the permissibility. The problem is the way those meats are prepared. Okay, so if you were to take me to a kosher restaurant, right, and you were to tell me that, this is the best pastrami you could find in New York, right? I'd be like, yes, let's do this. If you can tell me that it's kosher, absolutely. But then there's certain rules that the people of the book that have to follow in order for those meats to be permissible. The problem is for people who are deep into this industry within the United States specifically, and have been to, the average Muslim has probably not even been to a single slaughterhouse. So while the average Muslim or a Muslim scholar will definitely tell you that the food of the people of the book is perfectly permissible, the problem is that the meat that is sitting in front of you in the supermarket probably doesn't follow any religious standard altogether. So that's when it becomes problematic for me to pick up a steak, for example, at Costco, or a steak at, or chicken at a certain supermarket versus actually walking into a kosher certified restaurant, if that makes sense.
And now, a word from this episode's sponsor, Arya Steakhouse in Redwood City, California. Arya Steakhouse in Redwood City, California serves Persian cuisine as well as 100% Zabiha halal steaks, with specialties including the tomahawk, dry-aged ribeye aged in-house for 28 days, bone marrow, and beef kubide. All steaks come from Harris Ranch's hand-slaughtered halal beef. Come and celebrate your special occasions at the exquisite upscale restaurant located in the heart of downtown Redwood City. And of course, we can't forget the beautiful outdoor patio with heat lamps for a fancy yet cozy date night experience with your loved one. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Okay, a couple of common questions that come up is can we use vanilla extract? Can we cook with alcohol if it burns off? What are some of the rulings about that?
Specifically, if alcohol is being put in, if wine is being specifically put in the food, then no, it is not permissible for the most part. Vanilla extract, there's a certain number. If it's under, in the ingredients, the amount of alcohol that actually goes in there, if it's under a certain amount, the scholars have deemed it to be permissible.
What about using vanilla extract, which has a little bit of alcohol in it?
According to Al-Sistani, it's okay.
Is kombucha halal?
That'll depend on how much, fermentation and how much intoxication and lots of that kind of stuff. I don't know too much about it. I know people ask about it. Yeah.
I know I read one time at Sistani's fatwa saying that it's okay, and I think I drank like 10 bottles of kombucha that day. I don't recommend it. I had a stomach ache.
Hey, halal doesn't mean wajib, bro.
Let
me just go back to the vanilla extract one, because some people are going to say, oh my God, so are they saying alcohol is halal and all that? No. Ayatollah Sistani, he says with vanilla extract, look, if that alcohol, which is not for him, wine and beer are a problem. Other than that, if there's going to be alcohol in something, if it's super minute, that's like the wording he uses. I think the Arabic was, what was it? Da'il jiddan, he says. Then it's okay.
I think, and again, I'm not a scholar, but you have to look at the purpose of why certain alcohol is prohibited, right? If you're drinking alcoholic drinks to get drunk and high and buzzed, and it's impeding your thinking and everything, that's why it's haram according to common sense, right? So if you have a little minute alcohol in ingredient of something that you're using, like in medicine or cooking with it or for flavoring, you're not getting high and drunk and buzz off that, right? Is to create some kind of flavor in the food or whatever it is, right? So you have to look at it from a common sense point of view as well, which I think a lot of scholars, well, like you just mentioned, do.
So let me just explain one little thing here. If you're going to add a flavor to it, then usually it might not be a minute percentage. I don't know, but whatever. But what I want to say is this, is that some maraja, they believe that alcohol is najis though. That's the thing.
For those who don't know, najis means impure. In this context, anything that is considered impure is not allowed for human consumption according to Islamic law.
So even if you have a minute amount of it in an ingredient, right, it's going to render the whole thing najis, and it'll be haram from a najis perspective to consume.
Interesting.
Okay, that's
right?
good.
Now
That's
the thing with
point.
Sayyid Sistani is that he does not believe, other than wine, from what I remember, I think even wine that comes from grape sources, if I'm not mistaken, even that's how narrow it is for him. Wine, and then he says based on obligatory precaution, which is a technical term I don't want to get into, beer also will fall under that category. They will be najis, he says. That's why a drop of that in 20 bottles of something will make the whole thing najis, and so you can't have it from a najis perspective.
That's really interesting.
We can't drink najis water, for example, because it's najis. But he says if it's for me, it's not najis, and it's like a little bit, like a trace amount, then there's no reason for me to say it's haram because it's not intoxicating you, and it's not najis, so there's no dalil for it to be najis.
So the next question was, can you cook with alcohol if it will all be burnt off? And I'll use two specific examples because he made this distinction. Number one is I'm making a delicious halal zabiha steak, and I want to make a wine sauce to go with it. And I know all the alcohol will be burnt off. That's example number one. Example number two is I'm making a delicious Korean dish that requires gochujang. Gochujang has vodka added to it for the sake of consistency. And I know that while cooking, all of the alcohol will evaporate. Am I allowed to cook with alcohol?
So you worded it like this. You said a wine sauce and then the alcohol will burn off.
Yes.
But which one is it? Is it wine or is it alcohol?
Well, the flavor comes from the wine, but the alcohol burns off.
So it's wine though.
Yes.
All right.
So that makes that haram.
It makes it haram because it makes everything najis. Whatever you put that stuff on, make it najis, right? If it's the najis wine that we were talking about. The thing is, I'll say this on the side real quick. I get worried when I talk about these things and give the rulings because there will sometimes be people who will misunderstand what you're saying, and they'll just go out, saying to others, especially that, they're saying that it's okay to drink wine. No.
I don't think anybody's saying that here. I didn't hear that at all. Let's just make that very clear, everybody. Drinking alcohol and beer is haram.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't know who's going to be listening to this video.
Unless it's 0.0% Heineken.
Sponsor us, Heineken.
I have nothing to do with this.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Oh Allah, I have nothing to do with this. Just for the record, but going back to what we were talking about, right? Wine makes it najis, so yeah, you can't do that. Vodka, I don't know about vodka, what category that falls under for Ayatollah Sistani, right? But all in all, if it doesn't make it najis and it all burns off, all right? But forget about that. Let's just say you want to cook with rubbing alcohol or something, or like cologne or something, and then you spray that stuff on your steak, and yeah, it's inflamed and all that, right? And then it all burns off. Yeah. That would be according to what they're saying, that if it's not najis and it's a minute amount that's left on there, then if it's all burning off, then yeah. But wine is different.
Maulana, I know that for Shias, we're not allowed to eat any shellfish with the exception of shrimps. And we can't eat scaleless fish like eels and sharks either. Are there ever any exceptions to this rule? Like, what if you're living in a coastal area? There's a lot of these kinds of seafood and not much else. What are the exceptions?
It doesn't matter if you're living on the coast, you're inland, wherever you are. It doesn't matter. Our fiqh will say that an exception won't be made unless there are certain extenuating circumstances. So, for example, if you're living on the coast, I don't know, you're living in Japan or something, I don't know, where, there's a scarcity of livestock. If it reaches a point where, you need food and you don't have access to it, then Bismillah, you can have it. Yeah. So this will be, what they'll say in Arabic is if there's usr or haraj, yeah, these terms will be used. Usr and haraj means, hardship, to the point where usually it's not bearable for people. These exceptions will be made. Yeah, usually a person that's living on the coast, right, and is making a living there, it reaches a point for them that they can't just live off of, they can't live off of the little bit of halal animals they have. Then an exception will be made, but the exception will only be to the amount that is necessary. So, for example, if you're stuck in a desert, and you're dying of hunger, but there just happens to be an Outback Steakhouse there. Right? So it's not like, all right, you know what? I'm dying. Let me order I don't know. I've been waiting for this moment all my life to get stuck in the desert and be dying of hunger. So let me just order everything on their menu. No, the exception will be made to the amount that is necessary to get rid of those circumstances that you're in. Yeah. So that's what you'll have. So you'll have half a steak, not 4 steaks a bus. And just letting you know, the way you're sounding already, it sounds like, yeah, for you, food is very important. So I'm
Googling the Outback Steakhouse menu right now.
Hey, the lamb chops are coming from Australia, and they're halal lamb chops at Outback. But no, that's a good point. I think we have something similar to, and like you said, I'm not a scholar myself, but I've read a little bit about it. So we have this concept in the Hanafi madhab called makruh.
Okay.
It's which means like it's undesirable, but
Mm-hmm.
it's allowed. It's
Okay.
allowed, right? So it's
We have
like
the same thing.
so technically, certain seafood items like shrimp and whatever lobster are makruh, means that
Mm.
it's better to avoid it, but it's allowed. It's allowed
That's
if you.
interesting. Good thing you say that. You know why? Because in the amongst the Shia as well, we have this. Of course, we have makruh as well, something that's not haram, but it's better to stay away from.
Mhm.
But you get this question from Shias all the time, and it's not even a question. They'll tell you this, and they don't know that they're not actually being very accurate when they say this. They say shrimp is makruh. Abbas, have you heard that before or not? That shrimp is makruh in the Shia.
I've heard that, but I have not changed anything in my lifestyle after hearing that.
Now the thing is that some people that want to avoid makruh even, they'll avoid it. They'll say it's makruh, but no, it's in the Shia fiqh. I've never come across anything that says it's makruh. It's permissible. So I guess this is something that has maybe made its way in from the Sunni school. So thanks for saying that.
Imam Dawood Yasin, who shared a lot of his wisdom in the previous fiqh episode, is back again to share a special recipe for all of you seafood lovers out there.
If I could give you just a very simple recipe, and this is something, we live in California. I grew up on an island, like I said. I grew up saltwater fishing. There's all kinds of, salt water around us. There's a species which is called surf perch. They're very easy to catch, and they're also delicious to eat. You can grill them up, and if you catch some surf perch, if you want to know how, you could reach out to me. I could walk you through it. I'll take you on a trip, whatever it is, okay? But if you want to cook them up, very simple, man. Throw some olive oil, some parsley, some cilantro, some garlic into some sort of container to marinate them in. Salt, pepper. Throw them in that for a couple of hours at a minimum, overnight if you really want to, and then you can either wrap them in aluminum foil and put them on the grill. If you don't have a grill, you can also do the same thing and put them in your oven for about 20 minutes. You just want the skin to break away from it. A little bit of rice, a little bit, whatever you want for your side, for a vegetable, big green salad. And here's the thing: don't use your salad as a condiment, man. Salad is a delicious, nutritious meal in and of itself. Build delicious meals. Don't just have it like it's a side. Treating it like it's a garnish. You know what I mean? I don't mean a condiment, but a garnish. Salad is not a garnish, man.
I only eat salad if it has meat in it.
No. We're going to break that. Yeah, man. Beets, apples, walnuts. We put all of this in our salad at night. So anyway, yeah, this is a very basic recipe. 20 minutes in the oven, or in the grill. Flip it 10 minutes per side. If it's in the oven, you don't have to flip it. But on the grill, I like to flip it. And we're good after that, man. You know what I mean? Make dua, bismillah, and then get down on some halal goodness, right?
Mashallah, that sounds super delicious.
Alhamdulillah.
We are very grateful for the time that the scholars have shared with us in order to increase us in our understanding of halal and our understanding of each other. We hope this allows us to understand each other better as Muslims and to orient our diet as well as our lives towards achieving divine favor.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Artistic Foodies podcast. Before we go, show some love for your favorite podcast by leaving us a review on Google Podcast.
Be sure to find us on Facebook and Instagram to stay tuned for more episodes, as well as bonus content. You can also have access to all of our episodes at www.theartisticfoodies.com.
This podcast has been brought to you by Halal Fest Incorporated and Gamma, gathering all Muslim artists.